investments that we make in our own mentors is increasing over time. It's not decreasing. I'm not spending less on mentors as I get further on in business. I'm spending more because you need to, continually increase that buy-in and increase the circle of knowledge you have access to, because, at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody better than you. And that's okay. You don't have to be the best in business and the best in this. It's okay to not be the best, but just learn from them. Like, how hard is that? Just be good at what you do and just be prepared to learn from people who are better than you. It's like you invest money. On the other side of investing money, you make money. Like it's such a clear path, but like you have to be prepared to put the money in. You have to be prepared to put the work in. And yeah, it's a cheat code, but in business, it's risks and rewards. If you're not prepared to take a risk and invest in something that's going to help you go further, then you don't get the reward that goes with that as well. And I think that's the harsh reality of business, is if you're not prepared to take some risk, there's going to be somebody else out there who will, and then they're going to get further faster than you will because they're prepared to take that little bit of extra risk. And it's just finding the right person where the risk is worth the reward.
Welcome to Swift Coaches Academy, a podcast dedicated to bringing health and wellness professionals the uncensored truth behind what it really takes to succeed in the health industry with me, your host, Xenia Wood. As an accredited exercise physiologist and business owner for almost a decade, I'm on a mission to transform the lives of ambitious health professionals like you who want more and are ready to take action to create incredible impact in your careers and unlock financial freedom in your business. So join me as I speak candidly with industry leaders about the struggles and successes from within the trenches through thought-provoking conversations. Mr. Busy Ben, as I like to refer to you as, from Busybodies, also known as Ben. How do I pronounce your last name?
So it's Horbury. So easiest way to think Hor like a prostitute, and then Brie like the cheese. Horbury.
So good. I know
it's graphic, but it's just the easiest way to say it. And I've always been one that the graphic intros are things that last.
Oh, wow. Everyone has like this mental image in their head now, and hopefully if you move past that, because you're so much more than that. Oh, goodness.
I like to think so.
Oh, no, love it. I'd love to start. Obviously, you're a student of the Biz Academy and coming up to your end of your first 12 months, which is wild.
It's gone quick.
I would love for you to start with how you came across me, because as another exercise physiologist, how that happened. And let's hang on, backtrack a second, getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about who you are, how long you've been in business, and then how you came across me.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start back at the beginning. My name's Benjamin Horbury-Wood. I started Busybodies Exercise and Rehab out of inner North Brisbane in 2018. Before I started that, after I graduated, I bounced around, never really worked for any other clinics, kind of went straight to doing my own thing. I have a bit of a problem with authority, so working for somebody else kind of never really sat that well with me. I subcontracted out of a few 24/7 facilities straight out of uni. Had a couple of bad experiences, which I think seems to be quite common for EP starting out in commercial facilities. Went into a bit of a partnership deal with a friend of mine from uni for a while after that, which went well for a time until it didn't, which sort of forced me to have to start my own thing. I essentially had 3 weeks to either accept a salary that was significantly less than what I was earning at the time, or go out and start my own thing. And so jumped straight onto commercialestate.com and found the nearest thing that was available. It was an absolute bucket, hole in the wall on Stafford Road that, looked like something out of a horror movie. And after a lot of long nights and long days, I finally managed to put something together that looked somewhat usable. And I pretty much just said to all my clients at the time, hey, look, I'm moving across. I probably still need 1 more week to be able to make it usable. And then we started the week after that with a very, very bare bones sort of facility and spent some time moving through that. And unfortunately, that facility, I later found out, is prone to flooding and had multiple floods over 3 years, and everything went underwater and multiple insurance claims.
Was this was it 2021? When were those floods?
Oh, yeah.
Did that affect
what was in
you?
2021? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, thankfully, I had a commercial gym, a Jets facility that I was actually using for my own personal training. And they sort of said to me, look, hey, if you need somewhere to bring people while you're going through repairs and renovations and stuff, just feel free to bring them here, which I did. And that kind of ended up becoming the transition of how I slowly moved there, because I was going back and forwards between my place, it flooded, back to Jets, back to my place, it flooded. So yeah, it was just a problem. And after the certain time, I just said to myself, I was like, you're an idiot. Why are you still going back here? Like, I was so attached to the idea of having my own place and having my own space that I was like, I've got to find a way to make this work. But, I saved something like $1,000 a week straight up just from the differences in rent to go from having my own space to going back to a commercial facility. Plus I started getting some leads from internal stuff within the gym. So I kind of did the opposite of most EPs. I feel like I started in my own thing and went back to commercial, but no, it's been really, really good for me, and it's also made expanding quite easy as well. So I actually work out of 3 different Jets facilities as well now, because again, when it comes to expansion, you just pay your flat rent to add an extra person in there, and it gives you, scaling capacity a lot better, I believe. But yeah, again, this obviously just my story. It worked well for me. Yeah.
Like leads on tap,
definitely.
because you get another like Jets franchise or Snap or Good Life or whoever it is, and there's 2,000 people in front of you, potentially, depending on the gym size, right? Like I remember when I was working in what's now Good Life, there was like 4,000 members. And so I never had a lack of leads. I just need to learn how to talk to those people and convert them. So I think that's a very smart strategy early days. Like obviously, like you said, you did the inverse, but I definitely think that if you struggle with lead generation, being in a commercial facility where you like the people who have the PTs and the EPs who are like, oh, the gym's not giving me clients. I'm like, bruh, like if you have your own facility, you get none. Like people don't even fucking walk in the door. Like you have no idea how good you have it. You can just walk up to 30 people at any given time and it's a fucking dream. Like honestly, if I needed to if the whole fucking trend online of like, oh, if I had to start again to make $1 million, what would I do? For me, it's like I would just go into like a Good Life and clean up. Like could
100%.
easily
It's a proverbial buffet.
Yeah. But obviously it's the, I'm nervous of talking to people, the sales, all that sort of stuff, which is obviously what you learn really fucking quickly in a commercial facility like that, because it's dog eat dog and you either eat or are eaten.
And I think for people like you and me as well, like we're very social, we're very outgoing. So like you kind of sell yourself, like your personality becomes your best brand. And I think that's what I've seen in my personal experience. The most successful people who are independent at commercial facilities are exactly that. They are marketable, they're likable, and like how you present yourself is why you attract people. And so like you say, you have to learn that. But I mean, when I was on Stafford Road, I spent all this money. I remember I was so proud of myself. Got this big sign on top of the shop, all these cars driving down Stafford Road. It's one of the busiest roads on the whole north side. I think I spent $2,000 for the sign, and in the 5 years I was there, one person told me they saw it.
Oh, that's rough.
It is. But you don't know what you don't know.
The ROI, right? How much is so if fast tracking, but like LTV, lifetime value of one client for you, do you know your numbers enough to tell me like pretty much what that is?
Off the top of my head, it would, I think, look, we're averaging about 18 months to 2 years at the moment for our lifetime client. So, I mean, again, it probably paid itself off in that respect, but it's just a principle of like, at the time I was like, this is it. Like I'm in a high traffic area. This is how I'm going to get all the people in. And me being young and dumb, I was just, I mean, it's funny because it's still there. I've moved out about 2 years ago now, and the landlord hasn't found anybody else to take over the place yet. So my sign's still there on the roof, which is hilarious.
Maybe the ROI is still coming.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had anybody say anything yet.
So good. But like if we talk LTV and you say it's 2 years, and let's say you were charging, I don't know, let's say like $80.
Average is about 140 a week.
Okay. All right. No need to flex. Just kidding. We'll talk about like how you got to there and whatnot. But 140 a week for, let's be like super, like you said, 18 months to 2 years. So what?
Yeah.
52 times 1.5. Doing some quick math through Google. That's just over 10 grand. So like you 5 extra ROI on that one sign. And like I get, it seems like a shit idea and you're like, fucking hell. But like I don't think people realize that one thing you do can change the trajectory of your business. One post, one extra post that you put up that someone's like, fuck, that's the 7th time I've seen it and now I'm going to take action. Or like one different thing you say in your sales call, or fucking one sign you paid $2,000 for. It's crazy, those things. And for me, I actually think that one of those things is also just the act of hiring a business coach, because you step the fuck up. Like, you're like, right, I've made the investment. Now it's time to like really put my finger out. And that's really like, some of it doesn't even come from the coaching. It's just the act of going, I've decided and I've committed to my business for X period of time. And I've also put some skin in the game. So I think that's the first huge step, which is, I guess, you know, what started with us. And I think we were like talking on Instagram a little bit before you joined, and maybe you like dipped in and then was dipped out. Do you remember how that started?
I mean, yeah, before we move on to that, I 100% agree. And that's exactly what I was going to say. For me, it was finding a business mentor was like, I was like, why did I not do this earlier? Like the sooner I realized that, I was like, where I would have been if I had started this like 2 or 3 years earlier, I'm just kicking myself. I'm like, why did I think I could do it all myself? It's just the stupidest thing to think that I know everything. But anyway, we get past that. But yeah.
We all think that for a period of time. Well,
it was humbling.
Yeah, to be fair, like I knew I couldn't. Like, I was one of those people who was like, even though I'm like super confident, I was like, put my hand up, I was like, I suck at business. Really. And so that's why I went subcontracted and gave away fucking 50% of my income for the first 4 years, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And then like, look where I've ended up now, like pretty fucking fruitful, even though it was 50% of my income. And then, yeah, I think I had 6 months without a business coach before I just went downhill real quickly. Like my story of going down to 17 clients and more people canceling. And then I pulled my finger out and was like, fuck, I need support. And then have never looked back. And I've even, you know, had different business coaches or life coaches for different things. But yeah, do you remember how I remember you, like the podcast and the first episode, listening to that was like the tip over the edge. But before that, did you know me through the industry, or like, how did we meet?
I mean, look, I've been looking for a coach for a while, because again, I think I'd come to that point as well where I was like, look, I need somebody to help me. I'm really good as an EP, but I knew nothing about business. And I finally got to that point where I was realizing that, and I was like, look, I just need help in and around that. And like, I'd seen a lot of your Instagram and some of the podcasts and stuff, and just listening to your story about when you were at a certain company in West End, and I was just like, I related a lot to it, and I was just like, yeah, look, sometimes you realize that if you really want to get past a certain point, like you have to ask for help. And I think for me, it was like, that was just a terminal point. And yeah, I remember we jumped on the call, and one of the first things I said to you was like, look, I don't need somebody to hold my hand. I don't want a friend. I want someone to be brutal, and I want someone to be honest with me. And then you and I just straight away, we were just like, yeah, I'm the person for you. You're the person for me. And that's, I think, why we've had so much success together is, you know, I don't want someone to sit there and try to sugarcoat everything and tell me that life's going to be great and good if I don't do anything. It's like, well, no, pull your finger out of your ass. You're not doing anything. And because that's kind of where I got to. I got to a stage where I had a couple of staff, things were getting comfortable, and I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, I can just sort of coast, and things will get progressively worse, and then I'll put a bit more work in, and then it'll get better again, and then I'll step away again, it'll get progressively worse. And so, yeah, I just needed that kick in the ass, and that's why I think you and I really just were the best fit for each other. And I think for me, like looking back, I was really looking for, I guess, 3 main things. The number one was they had to be in the same industry as me, because I kind of really wanted to make sure that they were an EP as well, or had an understanding of the industry, just because I feel like that gives me the best value, I guess, for what I'm going to be getting out of it. And number 2, they obviously had to be more successful and further along than I was, because again, what's the point of learning from somebody if they're not further along the journey than I am? And then, yeah, number 3 is I had to believe in them as a person and believe that they could help me get to where I wanted to get to. And all 3 of those things were a big fat tick. So
thank you. That's so lovely to hear. And I do reiterate, like early days, I think that you should start with a specialist business coach who really intuitively, like hand on heart, knows and has been in that industry or very close to. Like, we were just talking off air before about the fact that like the main people I work with are exercise professionals, whether that's physios who do it, EPs or PTs, because I've worked in gyms. I was effectively acting as a PT on the gym floor. I just had a different title. And so I really do think there's a ton of benefit in early days having someone who like intuitively and knows and has been in your specific industry, because if you just go general business coaching, it's like they're teaching you fucking confidence and manifestation and little hand-holding woo-woos, which is like cool if that's what you want and need, but like you also need someone who's going to like slap you around the face a little bit and say like, get your finger out of your ass, like you said. So, I mean, clearly that's the kind of coach I am. And if people want a handhold and want a shoulder to cry, like I'm not going to be a bitch, and I still have compassion. And I should like preface that it's not always like you suck or anything. And I don't say that ever, to be fair, but like I don't think that we progress if everyone's like, oh, it'll be fine. And if you're treating your clients, you know, like you would, you know, a partner or a sibling or something like that, and you're like, oh, it's okay. It's like, well, sometimes it's not okay. Sometimes you need to know that.
100%. And it's the same conversations we have with patients sometimes as well, right? Sometimes you have to have tough conversations with them as well. And whether it be work or personal, in everything in life, you have to face hard truths sometimes. And I needed that. Like that's exactly what I needed. I needed to face some hard truths and get out of this facade that I was living in, where I believed that things were going where I wanted them to go, but they really weren't.
Sure.
And, you know, something that you always said a lot that always resonated with me as well, which is you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, I was just so stuck in my ways of doing what I knew. And I'm like, I always think about it like it's like an education and learning bias. You do what you think's right based on what you experience. And then you think it's the right thing. You think it's the only way to do things. And then you meet somebody else and then they say, oh, I actually do this. And then you're like, oh, well, fuck, I feel like an idiot for doing it this way. Like, so I don't know. It's one of those things where it was great to just have somebody else's opinion and learn a different way of doing things, because yeah, for a while I just thought that everyone did it the way that I did it, and that was the only way to do it. And I was so wrong. I was like, why am I doing it this way? It's stupid. It's not sustainable. And yeah, once I realized that, like that's really when business started to boom, because I was like, there's actually a better way of doing this. And even at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a revamp again, changing some softwares and trying to find ways to be able to make it a bit more scalable and systemized, because again, it's like what I have at the moment is better than what it was, but it could still be better again. I don't have to just accept the fact that just because it's working for me at the moment doesn't mean that as I scale that it's not going to have problems that come out later. And I've got to start being preemptive and looking for things that are going to be problems as I scale and try to fix them before they become problems, right? Like you can't always be reactive in business.
Well, I mean, you can't play defense and offense at the same time is something that I heard recently. And I was like, oof, like, are you trying to like defend all the shit that you've got, or are you? And I think being on offense in business all the time is the way to go, because defense is like protecting what you've got, and that's the scarcity, right? And the offense is the abundance, and you're just shooting buckets. And sure, some people will shoot down the other end, but like if you shoot more buckets, then more go in, then you're going to be winning. Something you said though was like, I knew there was a better way, and it just sort of felt stupid. Could you give me some examples of like those things that you were like, you changed or you realized that were eye-opening for you? Because I have an idea of what some of them might be, but could you talk to like some things where you sort of like had this one mindset and then perhaps I helped open that for you?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously the big one was the one that we spoke about when we first started, which really just A, gave me consistent income, B, gave me financial control to be able to see what the money coming in was going to look like and actually start budgeting and planning based on that. And that was simply just changing from a week to week, a session by session model to something more sustainable. So obviously we do minimum commitment periods now for new clients, and then do direct debit fortnightly, and for anybody who ongoing comes after that, with flexible arrangements for making sessions up and things like that. So rather than just having the system of you come in, you do that session, you book in for the next one, and not know more than 7 days in advance what your money's going to look like. And I was just like sitting there stressing every day, and I was just like, I don't know if you're going to be back next week. I don't know if I can afford to pay my staff next week. Like it really is a scary thought to think that all it would take is just one small thing, and all of a sudden I have no structure and no consistency with it. And at first I was like, oh, but like maybe my clients won't like this, or maybe this is just not look like me, being money hungry and having a cash grab. And And I sat down and spoke to some of them, and they were like, why aren't you doing this already? Like, this just seems like it's common sense and it's so much easier. And I was like,
they're like, I don't want to fucking bring my credit card every session. Fuck that.
100%. I mean, I still have my high cap terminal sitting in my office, which I haven't touched in nearly a year and a half now. It's just sitting there collecting dust. And I was like, at some stage, I should probably call them and say, hey, do you want to come back and collect this terminal again? But yeah, it's just like, that's all I knew. Like, I grew up playing a lot of sport, and I was at the physio probably every second week because I was just perennially injured from sports injuries. So I'm like, oh, can you go in, swipe your healthcare card, pay you fine, thanks so much. When are we rebooking you for? And it goes on and on and on in the roundabout of just week-to-week services. And I mean, the reality of it is I felt like I was also doing a disservice to my clients as well, and especially for new starters, because obviously we know pretty well that, through physiological adaptation, you're not going to get anything that's going to really have any noticeable change for less than 8 weeks. Like, there's a reason why sports teams do 3 month preseasons. It's because you need consistent stimulus to be able to get an actual physiological adaptation. So it sort of changed my mindset a little bit to say to them, like, look, I'm not doing this as a way to lock you in. I'm doing it because if you do anything less than that, I feel like I'm taking your money, knowing full well you're not going to get any change, because I know that it won't change in less than that time. So if I'm accepting it for less than that, I'm taking your money knowing that I'm doing nothing for you. And it felt very dishonest for me. So I think that was really a big mind shift change for me. It's like, hey, I'm not doing this to try to make you stay here. I'm doing this so I can actually guarantee that when you work with us, you're going to get something out of it. And I'm not just going to say, hey, give me your money, and if you don't get better, sorry, too bad. Like, that's the system that you want. So yeah, it was just a big mind shift change for me. And again, I just thought that was the only way, because it's all I'd ever known. And it was just great for me to be able to see that there was, possibilities to do things differently. And then even obviously working towards offer creations and doing packages and programs. And again, it was something that I sort of thought was more, personal training sort of side of things. But again, eventually I realized there's a reason why personal trainers are very successful. It's because they're good at what they do. Their packages and their sales programs are effective. And, I needed to learn and put my ego aside and say, just because I'm an exercise phys and I feel like I've got a higher level of qualification doesn't mean that I'm better at selling the service than what they are. And I honestly sat back and was like, God, I can learn a lot from these guys. And I did.
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously second all of that. And I feel like I was literally talking to someone this morning at a networking group, and I was saying, I love working with PTs. And he was like, don't you prefer like the healthcare professionals? And I was like, honestly, fuck no. You know why? Because they have like they have more indoctrination from like the university system, and then it's unethical to do sales. But like, I believe, so firstly, like to sort of tack on to what you said in terms of, the packages are beneficial for them. I also feel like it's unethical to be like, cool, I'm going to help you lose 10 kilos or rehab, an MCL or whatever it is. But like, let's just go session by session and see how you go. Even though I fucking know that you're not going to get better in anything under like 12 weeks. Like, why would I allow you, once you've committed, to just see how you go when I fucking know you're probably going to feel shit for the first little bit. Yeah. And it's going to be really hard, and you're going to want to tap out because you're not going to see results, because you can't do something in exercise or generally in health unless, it is like a rub down or something that, is like surgery where there is an instantaneous result. Yeah. Then it's like, there's no way you're getting results with someone in 1, let alone 4 sessions. So why are we actually even presenting that as an option? Like, I think that's the unethical thing, is to be like, yeah, I'll just take your money once, and if you feel like coming back, come back, even though you haven't got the result yet. And therefore, like, there's no risk on me, because you can decide how much you pay, but like, I'm not putting skin in the game to help you get the result as the client. And I think that's a really important shift for people to make, and it's huge. Like, I'm glad you brought it up, because I feel like it does feel like fucking Everest, being like, oh my God, going from session by session, and then I have to learn sales, and like, what are my clients going to think? But like, every single time I've done this and I've had our students do this, they've been like, oh my God, like, it was easy. Why didn't I do this sooner? And it's just all the indoctrination or the shit between our ears that gets in our way. So yeah, I think I thought that's what you were going to say when I asked that question, but I'm glad you sort of dove into that, because Hopefully anyone who's still sitting on the fence or still doing session by session or still feels fucking anxious because they don't know if their client's coming back in 7 days, and they want to, like have some fucking consistency, or God forbid one day sell their business and they're like, oh, where's your like recurring revenue, which is like the lifeblood of a business is cash flow. It's like, oh, there is none. You're like, oh, so what are you selling me? Oh, the potential of a client coming back. You're like, that's not, I'm not buying that.
I think that's exactly it. I don't think anybody ever, talks about that enough, about the value of recurring revenue for selling a business. Like, I'm sort of going through the process of buying a couple of other businesses at the moment and looking through these things. And again, you look at the value of these businesses when you have recurring consistent revenue and how much more, attractive that is as a business. But nobody ever tells us that. And I think people really need to understand the value that brings in having that recurring revenue. Not that I guess you might want to sell, but it also means if you ever wanted to borrow money, to be able to reinvest into the business as well. If your business is valued at more because the revenue is recurring, then you can borrow more as well. So I really think that it's something that we don't get educated about enough in terms of like I said, the business side of things. What can we do to make the business more valuable and have, more to it? So that whether you wanted to borrow money or at some stage, sell it, how can it be the best benefit to you? But again, you don't know these things until you find somebody who can teach you these things. And that was exactly the point that I'm making, is that you need to find, and again, for me, it was ironic, right? Because I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe a coach isn't the thing for me. I played team sports my entire life. I've been getting coached since I was 5 years old. So I've obviously seen value in having somebody who's got more experience teaching it to me. But all of a sudden in a professional sense, I'm like, no, hold up. Like, maybe this person's not going to help me. Like, maybe it's just going to be a waste of money. But I mean, look, another big believer in when you pay attention. And it's exactly like you said, if you're not prepared to put skin in the game, then of course you're not going to put any work into it, because you have nothing to tangibly tie you to it. And, it's something that you and I have spoken about many times, that, progressively as time goes on, the investments that we make in our own mentors is increasing over time. It's not decreasing. I'm not spending less on mentors as I get further on in business. I'm spending more, because you need to, continually increase that buy-in and increase the circle of knowledge you have access to, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody better than you, and that's okay. You don't have to be the best in business and the best in this. It's okay to not be the best, but just learn from them. Like, how hard is that? Just be good at what you do and just be prepared to learn from people who are better than you. Like, let your ego go.
Yeah, I honestly feel like it's a cheat code. Like, we don't talk about, there's like not really hacks and shit in business, and you've got to work your ass off and like take far longer than anyone tells you it will and be far harder, but far more rewarding. But at the same time, it's like, I was playing on hard mode, trying to fucking quote unquote figure it out for myself. And then I got a coach and I was like, the fuck was I doing before this? And the irony now that I was reflecting on the other day with someone is that I will drop like 5 figures on a business coach within a couple of days of like them coming into my circles through an ad or through social media or someone recommends, whatever. But then I will be like, oh, like those pants are like $150. Like, I don't really know. And it's wild. But the thing for me is that the clothes or the food that I buy that day or whatever is a liability, whereas I see the asset and the investment and I just fucking back myself. And so I know that the investment of $150 might make me feel good, but like the investment of the, $10K plus in a business coach or some sort of program or a 3-day thing or whatever, which I've done multiple of, it's like, I just know that I'm going to get an ROI off of that. And I'm also going to put in the steps to make it happen. So, I think I look at my money differently because I'm not afraid to invest anymore. But the first one is so fucking terrifying. Like it is. It always will be. And I don't think there's anything that's going to stop that. But that's also the reason why I think everyone needs to do it.
I don't think I ever told you this, but when I first signed on with you, I pretty much had to bleed my personal savings dry to be able to get it going through. But I didn't even hesitate, because I was like, you know what? I need this. And at the end of the day, it was the best decision I've ever made. And I don't regret it at all. And nor would I, even if I had the opportunity to do it again or try and do everything differently, it wouldn't change anything. Like, the only thing dumber than not investing in a coach is not listening to what they say. And like, that was the other part of it as well for me. I think like the first week I was like, oh, come on. don't know, like, is this right? Like, why am I listening to this person? And then I was just like, I better stop doubting them, because I'm paying them for their knowledge and their advice, and then actually just do it. No, I did it. And I was like, oh shit, like this actually works. Like maybe I should listen more often. But yeah, it's just one of those things. You're just got to be prepared to make the investment, and you got to be prepared to do what they tell you to do. And some of those things are going to feel yuck, and some of those things are going to feel out of your comfort zone. But if you want to be better and you want to do better, then you have to do things differently sometimes, and that's never going to feel comfortable.
Yeah. Fuck, I lost my shit and tried not to cut you off when you said the only thing dumber than not investing as a coach is not listening to them. I think we've all had moments of that, of like, you invest and then some people think it's this magic pill and they're like, oh, well, I invested. So like, where's my ROI? And I'm like, well, have you done the things? Have you listened to the modules? Have you attended and it's like step 1 is investing. Then step 2 is showing up, and step 3 is taking the fucking action, rinse, repeat, right? But yeah, I think we're probably hopefully everyone now is like, fuck, I need a coach. Because I honestly do not care if it's me or someone else, but I do always care. And I know that we said this coming up to the end of your 12 months. It's like, I will never ever let someone walk away without having like their next step in place. Because the last thing I want is for them to leave the incredibleness that is coaching and the community and the support you get and the bouncing ideas and just being able to have someone, like, you can't see your business or read the label from inside the bottle has been a phrase mentioned to me recently that I love. And I just think there's so much value in that. And I've probably gone for max like 3 months since 2018 without a coach, and I fucking went down, like I spiraled, and I just was bouncing ideas. It's life, it's business, it's just even knowing that there's someone there in your corner, I think is invaluable, and I don't know if I could go without it, to be honest.
Oh, 100%. And I don't know if you remember, but there was one of the months, I think we're about 3 months in, and I was just having one of those times, like I think a lot of business owners do, where you doubt yourself. You're like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to keep doing this. Maybe I want to look at getting out of it. And I just came to you, and I was just in a sorry place. And as supportive as you were, you sort of said to me, like, what are you doing? You're a fucking idiot. Like, you know you want to do this, and you love what you do. Like, don't doubt yourself. Don't let yourself, get into that mind space of, this is too much, and I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it was exactly what I needed. And that's what you get from this, is it's not only somebody to help you do better. It's somebody to also be there when you're having those moments of doubt, or you're not sure about where you're going with it, and just being like this is what you want to do. You have moments, and we all have moments where we think maybe this isn't what I want to do. Like, that's normal. And I mean, I think the more you accept that, the happier you're going to be. I don't think anybody can look back at their career and think, you know what, I loved every single day and every single minute of my entire career all the time. Like, it's just, it's a glamorized version of it. It's not the way that it works. You're always going to have good times and bad times, and sometimes you just need to have your own, obviously, self-purpose to keep you going through those times. But as well, it never hurts to have somebody else to be there next to you, being like, you know what, no, we can do this. And I'll be there with you to get through that. And like, I actually was showing my tax accountant the other day, looking at some of my P&Ls, some of my financial stuff since we started working together. And, I think I've already told you this, but we'll go through it again. Like, it was $70K of extra revenue in the first 12 months. And that's not even taking into consideration that I earned probably 10% of what I was supposed to for the January of that financial year, because I made a substantial fuck up, which I've had to learn very quickly not to make again, because I pretty much made no money for one of those 12 months and still made $60,000 more than what I did the previous year. And then sat down just before looking at the end of the first quarter for the next financial year, and it looks like we're on track to add another 90,000 on top of the 60,000 we made off of the last month. So I get it. It's sort of like sitting there. It's like, you invest money. On the other side of investing money, you make money. Like, it's just such a clear path, but like, you have to be prepared to put the money in. You have to be prepared to put the work in. And yeah, it's a cheat code, but in business, it's risks and rewards. If you're not prepared to take a risk and invest in something that's going to help you go further, then you don't get the reward that goes with that as well. And I think that's the harsh reality of business, is if you're not prepared to take some risk, there's going to be somebody else out there who will, and they're going to get further faster than you will, because they're prepared to take that little bit of extra risk. And it's just finding the right person where the risk is worth the reward. And that's why for me, like I'm a big believer in people. Like I'm very good at reading people. I'm very good at my relationship skills and building relationships with people. And I spent 2 minutes on the phone with you. And I was like, yep, she's my girl. Don't even need to bother having any conversations with anybody else. Like, this is my person. Like, you just find people who just understand and they get you on a certain level, and you just know that you're gonna see value out of that time together.
I love that. And I, like, in our initial, I guess you call it sales call, but our strategy session, I felt exactly the same. I was like, fuck yes, like same wavelength, same language, like just very, very much aligned in our beliefs on what needed to happen. And I feel like that only happens in sales when you're not treating it like a sale, you're treating it like a conversation, you're treating it like, how can I help this person? You have like a framework for sure, but you're also just like listening, asking questions. And so like, I actually fucking love sales. Like sales for me is fun because I get to like meet new people and I'm extroverted. So that's cool. But like, this is someone who like wants my help to get better. And like, if I have the answers, how fucking cool is that? So yeah, I love that side of things. And another thing you said in terms of it's normal to have moments of doubt whether you want to like fucking burn your business to the ground or whatever. I remember one of my very first students, shout out Keith from Canada if he's listening. He used to have a list in his phone of every single time that he wanted to quit. And he would just like November 2nd, like 2020, like he would just write it down, like felt like I wanted to quit today. And then
I need some more data on my phone if I was to do that.
The beautiful thing about it was just like, and every single time he didn't. And like so it's like, just because you have a feeling, and like business can make you feel lots of things, but the data is where we need to rely on and like using and leveraging support. But I'd love to come back to like some of the, maybe like the most impactful things. We sort of talk like high level, but I know that when you started, you said like systems was something that you were like horrendous at. And then there are a couple of other things. Could you talk through like what those were and what you got out of the improvement in those areas?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think systems, software, automation, all that sort of stuff, any of the back end work, I had my head in the sand. I was like, life is good. Everything from here up is amazing. And then I just didn't have any idea what was going on in the back end. I was like, hey, I get to keep working with people and I get to help people feel better. And then eventually my accountant said to me, hey, like something's not right here, or like I have a client looking to transition out or whatever it might be, and look at things and be like, okay, like this system's not sustainable. It's not going well. Tracking my finances was a big one, which obviously was one of the things that you were most insistent with me on. You were like, if you don't track your finances, then you're literally steering a car down a highway blind. And I was like, oh yeah, kind of is how it feels some days. And so I was like, okay, got to start sorting that out. So yeah, tracking my finances was probably the first thing that really made a big difference for me, because knowing where you're at is the easiest way to know where you can go and then plan where you want to go. And I think it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I want to go from A to B, but I don't know where A is. So it's like, sweet, I'm kind of just in the middle of the space, in the middle of the universe, and I want to get to Earth, and I don't know where I am in that universe. Like, you kind of have to know where you are to be able to plan where you want to go, but also to give you a realistic expectation of where you can go. Because, I mean, you can't just go from, a 6-figure to a 7-figure company without knowing that it's probably going to take you a bit more time. So that was the biggest one for me. So having clarity around that, being able to also just be better about allocating money to things for your BAS. So, putting away your tax and your super, and obviously, just making sure you're prepared for the quarter and the financial year. So I'm not just sitting there all of a sudden be like, oh, here comes my tax bill, and I have no idea where I'm going to find that money from. So organizing my finances was definitely the first thing that I probably got the most benefit out of. Changing softwares, to a direct debit software, and getting rid of the high caps terminal was again probably equally just as important for me. And like I said, my clients loved it. They said, look, it's great. I get 5 minutes back out of every appointment for every appointment I'm going to do for the rest of my time with you. So again, you think about how many times in 12 months when you're seeing somebody, you're losing time to having to process a payment. it's, it's silly really when you think about it. And what else? That's a good question, actually. I mean, it's like, how do you tangibly name all the amazing things that you've done without knowing, I guess, that it's happened? Like, if you start crying, I'm going to start crying. But if you can't start, it'll be a waterfall.
I'm a sympathy crier. So yeah, it's neither of us. We're both stone cold today. Fine.
No, 100%. And then the only other thing I was just thinking of as we're about to start crying together, was just in terms of the contracts as well, like contracts with staff, had to do a bit of a rejig on, and even just learning from a few things, because obviously you and I spoke a couple of times as well about mitigating your risks, in terms of what we have with client-facing risks, but also with staff. But you and I've had a conversation that staff sometimes it's either a happy day or a sad day. I went through some tough times for a while, but I landed on an amazing team at the moment who I'm extremely happy with, and I think part of that's come down to a lot of the time that we spent together looking at finding the right people and finding people that fit the values of your business. And I think that was the big learning point for me. So I had to sit down and be like, okay, well, where do I want to go with this business? And if I can convey that to people, be like, hey, I'm super passionate about chronic pain, and I genuinely believe that chronic pain is an epidemic, and I want to play a part in ending the epidemic. Like that to me is impactful, and I actually can do something that's gonna like mean something. But then I have to then find other people that believe in that too, because if they don't believe in that, then they're never really going to be the kind of people that are going to want to work with me in that. And it sounds bad, but it's almost like it's an army, really. Like, like the leader of the army needs to have, a mission and a purpose for soldiers to want to follow along. And I think the sooner that I learned that, the sooner I was a lot happier with my recruitment and finding the right people to help, support both my clients, but also support my business. Because I guess as things, transition and move up, the time that I have left to be able to do client-facing work is decreasing. So you've got to be able to have the trust in the people that take over that. And I'm super lucky and grateful to be able to find the people that are the perfect fit for me.
It reminds me of, I feel like it took us a couple of weeks. I'll rephrase. It took you a couple of weeks to come around to the idea that it's probably a good idea to have a hard conversation with your team about shit that you'd let slide and then sort of needed to rein it in, or actually just set some ground rules, because there were no fucking ground rules. Like I didn't know how to run a team before I started either. And you kind of just like throw rules at them left, right, and center. And it's like, where's the fucking playbook? Like, how are they supposed to remember these 17 rules you gave them? And like, where's the system for that? And how do they know that they're supposed to, like, after the initial consult, they need to like do A, B, C, D, and then send off this email, and it has to have these things in it. And so I think the first part to that was like, I know that having that hard conversation like turned out really great for you, but then also the systems was something you said you initially struggled with, and implementing just little things like your lead, like your funnel, right, from lead to like booking in. I think that was something that was big for you, because you're like, what do you mean? I've got a contact me form on my website. And I was like, that's not going to cut it. So just to rejig your memory, I think that's probably something that like no real coaches or health pros do. It's like, book in with me, or like call me and I'll just fucking get back to you whenever. But having like a funnel, and everyone has a funnel, by the way. Like, it doesn't matter if your funnel is someone texts me and then I like fucking call them and then book them in. That's your funnel. Or you have like a lead magnet, and then that turns into getting their phone number and email, and then that turns into an email that then prompts them to book a call. And like, everyone has a funnel. It's just that some people's are far less sophisticated and they don't realize. And sometimes the funnel 100%. Is just leaking all out the side.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where I was at. Like, I just didn't really spend enough time paying attention to the client journey, because the client journey is important, obviously, and I just didn't understand that, like you said, that there was a client journey already in place. It just wasn't a very good one, and it wasn't really tracked well. So like you say, being able to understand, if I was somebody coming in, what does it look like when I come in? Where does my contact to get them to? From there, where do they do it to then be able to get in front of me? And from there, what does it look like to then get them from there? So it's like, you need to have an understanding of what that looks like from there. Is it easy for them? Where are the friction points? And again, like you say, track your numbers. Like, how many people are coming to this page, and how many people are, and then going to, end up with converting from there, or from there, where they're going to go. It's like, if you don't understand these things, if you don't see where the leaks in the SIP are, how can you plug them? And I think that was, it was very powerful for me to be able to actually sit down and be like, okay, rather than just, I pour a liter of water into a sieve and there's just 50 holes where the water's coming out from. I just needed to start plugging up some of them. And then eventually I could put 4 or 5 liters of water into the sieve. And then one of the holes might have maybe slowly started leaking. So again, you figure out where you need to patch it up. And then eventually you just can keep going. You can keep adding more and more in and just look for where the holes are and deal with them that way. So that was a big change for me. And I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I really did see huge value in that. And again, it's something that marketers and advertising companies do as a standard practice. But obviously, to be able to get that included in a coaching sense with that as well, it saves you having to go out and find multiple people to do something for you when you can get everything in one place, right?
Yeah. And I think this is the thing, right? Like, I feel like the title business coach is sometimes the bane of my existence, because I really do feel like I'm a specialist in generalizing. Like, I know how to create offers. I know how to create funnels. I fucking create my own website from scratch and taught my VA how to do it. Like, I've been the one who's like just done everything myself and learned it myself, but obviously with the help and the support. But then, creating the systems and figuring out how to do that. And like, I'd never seen someone else's like SOP, like a standard operating procedure. I was just like, let's write it down and throw some links in and then put it in a software. And like, as long as it works, as long as everyone understands it. And that's what helped me be able to go to Bali, which I haven't mentioned yet. But went to Bali for effectively all of September, and I worked for 4 hours because my VA basically like ran the back end of the business. I did as minimal face-to-face contact hours, and we've got modules and things like that. And I also see that for your future in your business, it doesn't matter that it's not like a business coaching program, but even with clients, right? Like, how much knowledge can they get out of having like a resource hub? And I see that the people who are just doing coaching and have nothing outside of that and don't do education and don't have resources and support are going to get fucking left behind.
Oh, I 100% agree. And look, this is something I'm trying to actually work on implementing at the moment. We actually haven't had this conversation, so it's the first time you're going to hear this too. But I 100% agree. Like, I've actually been looking at, we've met with some of our partners and some of the industry experts in the pain space around us. So we've got a pain injection doctor we've just started working with, and we've actually started going to them and saying, hey, can you do an in-service education, which we can then record. So not only it would be for the staff, but then be able to incorporate that for something we can then also give to our clients. Be like, hey, this is everything he has to learn. And obviously we might try to make it cleaner and more succinct in words that they'll understand. But it's just a great way, because I'm a massive believer in education. At the end of the day, I think the reason why we have such a long client life isn't because we make them dependent on us. It's because we teach them so much in the hope to make them independent. They don't want to be independent because they've learned so much that they know that the value of education that we're giving is worth more than going out and being independent. So I'm right there with you. I think the value of education is huge, and it's something that I think a lot of EPs particularly don't see enough value in, and something I really had to drill into to my boys and be like, look, you need to explain everything that you do to people and explain why you're doing it to them, because they like to know why you're doing something, because then they see the knowledge that you have, but they can also see that there's a reason why you're doing things that they're doing. It builds trust, it builds a relationship, and then if it sort of doesn't go well, let's say it might, aggravate something, then you can say, hey, look, this is the reason why we're doing it. Unfortunately, it didn't get to that, but at least now we know. So that they know that there's a reason why you've done what you've done, and it's not just, hey, I'm just going to throw 1,000 darts and hope that one lands on the board. So I think, education is massive. And if you can't find a way to share your knowledge, then, it becomes a challenge, I guess, to be able to build strong relationships.
I feel like that's what I leaned on in my early days of my career, because that's all I had was like education and knowledge. And almost too much, to a detriment where I didn't ask them about their day. I was like, well, let's talk about the scapula. And got like far too excited. And they were like, oh, no. So I found the balance eventually. But I actually have had clients even recently who have either decided to go with us or not, based on like, oh, well, like, do you educate us or do you tell us why behind things? Or then specifically said to us, I also want to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that's perhaps, a bit of chicken and egg. Like, we've talked about education, therefore the clients who come to see us also want that. But I also think that empowers them. And for anyone who feels like, oh no, but then, you know, they're going to know all the things, they're going to go off and do it themselves. What I've actually found is like, okay, well, you have a degree or at least a certification. And if you have taught your client everything you know, and they know as much as you do, then you haven't fucking upskilled enough. Like, that's good. Yeah. Like, you should get called out for that. So like, if you're not more skilled in something than your client, and you're not able to support them and continue to help them grow and learn as you do, then that's the problem.
And I feel like you learn every day, right? Like every time you see somebody, even if it's the same person you've been seeing for ages, you learn new things about them and how people evolve. And I think it's the harsh reality of working in clinical practice. You go to uni, you do all your subjects, you learn everything. You're like, that's it. Like, I know everything there is to know. Put me out in the world and I'm going to help people. And then you work with your first person in a private clinic. You're like, fuck, I know nothing. This person's not responding to a textbook. Like, why are they not responding the way that I was taught for them to respond? And like, that's what clinical practice and clinical experience is. You just have to keep doing it, and you learn and you learn and you learn. And over time, you just get better at identifying and learning more specific things, I guess. And then you can relate that to people. But you never stop learning. I think as long as you're always open to it, you never stop learning, but you've got to be prepared to, and you've got to seek out other people who also have, you know, similar experiences, but maybe are specialized in something else, and be able to learn from them. Because again, like we said before, it's okay not to be an expert in everything. And I know, you know, for me, like I quite enjoy a bit of a diverse and client load. Like I never really wanted to go hyper specialized. Like obviously now we are starting to specialize a bit more and niche down more towards the musculoskeletal and joint issues. But we still obviously see other clients as well with them. But again, it's like if you want to learn other things, there's always people out there who are willing to share their information. And I think that's the most important thing, is just accepting the fact that there's always going to be people out there who want to learn and share their knowledge, and you can always add value by giving your knowledge to them. So it's a benefit for both parties. And that's essentially what I found through business coaching. Again, it's I have to learn what you have to learn, but then you get to also learn from me and how to be a better coach.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I think it's also like, of course, when you're looking at like business coaching or the technical coaching or whatever, you want someone who's like more advanced than you. But like you said, I also think like you learn from your peers, you learn from your students, even if they're like at the same level or quote unquote below you in whatever metric you're using. I think that, you know, we're not all, you know, if you're earning more than someone doesn't mean that you're better at them than with, I don't know, fucking like LinkedIn lead generation or like some random thing that you've maybe not done, and they could be great at that, but they're just like beginner in their business or make less money or whatever. So I do really love being open to the idea. And I see so many really fucking successful business owners who are like in the fucking front row with their notepad out, taking notes for like some beginner guy who's on stage, and they're like the GOAT, but they're just like sitting there taking notes. And that's why they're the fucking GOAT, because they never have an ego or never too humble to learn something new.
Oh, 100%. And like even with my staff, like again, everyone's got their own special area of interest. One of my boys loves pediatrics and working with kids. And I did a little bit of work, obviously, with that through my clinic organically anyway. But then he came in and one day I was like, actually, you know what? You love this. And this is what your jam is. Why don't you actually educate us? And got him to write up a presentation and sat down with all of us. And I was like, oh my God, like I know nothing. Like you just know so much. Like, and again, this guy was just out of uni, but he was just, he just found his thing and he was just amazing at it. And I think the value of being able to learn from your peers, and I make it very clear to my guys whenever we have any team meetings, I'm like, look, I am not above you and nor are you guys below me. Like I've just been doing this for longer. I'm not better or worse. I've just been doing this for longer. And I never want for anybody in our business to ever feel like there's, you know, I'm up here and I'm a senior. That's why I hate this whole senior versus junior therapist and things like that. It's like, I've just been doing it longer because I'm older. It doesn't mean I'm better or worse. We all have our own unique things to offer. And it's really important to my team, at least, that we all feel like we're all on the same wavelength. Like, I don't like them when they call me their boss. I'm not your boss. I'm just I'm just somebody here who's here to help you grow and learn.
It's such a weird thing, right? Like I get boss from like my VAs and stuff, and I'm still all like twitch a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't feel nice. I'm like, hey, I'm 31 years old. You're making me feel like I'm like 50 here. Like I'm no one's boss. I'm just a friend who works with you. That's a friend who works with you until you start doing the wrong things. Then I'm an angry friend who works with you. So it's yeah, I don't know. And I think we've had this conversation before. It's a very hard balance sometimes to keep that relationship happy, where you can be a bit stern sometimes if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, but being able to stay on the same level and have that camaraderie. Like I spend at least once or twice a month, we'll go out with the team, or we'll do some sort of team bonding events. So we went out to a batting cage at Hamilton last week. They've got this new bar with a batting cage, baseball batting cage.
You have to send me the link. I will absolutely hit that up.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like a golf simulator, except for it's a batting cage simulator. Essentially, they just have the balls that shoot out. You have the bat, and you just whack them. By the way, we had a great time. We regularly catch up and do things like that. We've done golf simulation. We've done bouldering. We just try to find a way to spend time with each other, and we do a little bit of case conferencing and chatting. But more than anything else, it's just spending time together. Because at the end of the day, we're all in the journey together, and I want everybody to always feel like they're part of that. And I think that's sort of why our team's always been so collaborative, and why everyone helps and supports each other, is because we've never felt like it's this I'm up here and you're down here philosophy. And it's very similar even in the way that we work with our clients. Like I don't like the whole hiding behind the hyper professionalism facade. Like you and I have had this conversation before about dressing up like you're some super successful person and then saying, hey, I'm a professional, like you need to look up to me like I'm like this. Like that's just not me. Like I rock up and I'm like, look, hey, the service I provide is so good, I could rock up in a Hessian bag and it doesn't matter. And if you can't provide a service that's so good that what you're wearing matters, then maybe you probably need to reevaluate what you're offering and be like, hey, if I'm having to dress a certain way to make people think I'm good at what I do, then you probably need to improve what you do. So that's always been my thing. Even from the start, I'm like, hey, I want to be here on your level. Like I'll be casual. We'll talk about what's going on in my life. We'll talk about what's going on in your life. And there's obviously there's a balance where it doesn't, get out of context. But, if somebody wants to tell me that they got smashed on the weekend and they spent the whole night in a valley, passed out in the gut, I'm like, yes, sweet. Like, I love that. I've been there myself. Like, thankfully it's been a few years for me, but make sure you're still here on Monday because we got some rehab to get through. But I think, again, if you build those relationships with people, the stronger those relationships are, the easier it is to try to, push harder boundaries. And I think that's, for me, where I've found the most success is just whether it be in the way that you handle your team or the way that you work with your patients. Don't try to have a tier system. One of them's up here and one of them's down here. Everyone's always on the same level working together. And I think that's been where I've had the most success, is just treating people like people. And then if you treat people like people, then people like you. Like that's just the crux of how I found it.
I love that. I feel like both of us, but potentially particularly you a little more, can talk underwater. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up. But we can talk more off air about life things that are happening and the businesses that we're buying and whatnot, which is like fucking wild to say, because I don't think, 12 months ago for you and maybe 2-3 years ago for me. Like what? I was the kid who checked the price of fucking strawberries growing up to see if we'd buy them or not, right? Not buying a fucking business. Like, are you insane? So, that's fucking cool. And I love that. But what I do want to do is make sure you get a cheeky, shameless plug for Busybodies, because I do think the work that you do is incredible. And I do think that any exercise physiologist or anyone on north side of Brisbane who is looking for rehab should absolutely stop in and have a chat to you guys. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so obviously socials is always one of the big ones. I mean, we're just starting to reintegrate social media. I had a bit of a break for a while. So Busybodies Exercise and Rehab is where you'll find us on the socials. Otherwise, our website. And I'm always happy to have chats with people, whether it be professional or clients. If anybody ever has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And there's going to be a new Busybodies business opening up in the not so distant future, so keep an eye out for something else that might fall under a different but similar banner in the next 3 to 4 months.
So exciting, and I'm keen to let everyone know that when
once
that does
we get there, then you and I will do podcast 2.0, filming it from inside. And
I love that. That. Well, we can't say too much more.
No, that's right. Secret squirrels for the time being.
Yeah. All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Ben. You have been a fucking pleasure to coach, and I'm so excited for the future of Busybodies and whatever else comes up for you, because like, of course we went through our hiccups, and it wasn't without resistance or frustrations from probably both parties, to be fair, but like any good relationship, you can't get through hardship without hard conversations where you might feel a little frustrated. So I just think, like, as per like the avatar of the people I love working with, you tick so many of those boxes as like someone who's just like ready to like hook in and get shit done, like open to new ideas, I think is huge. And we talked about the transition of the model. And then on top of that, now I've lost. I'm so close. We were so close.
It's okay. Keep telling me how great I am. I'm loving this.
Yeah, well, I know. I just think like being open to constructive feedback and open to me like being brutally honest with you, and you copping it like a champ, and then reflecting and going, okay, why did she say that? She's not being a bitch. She actually cares a lot about me and my business success. I should probably make some changes or do the thing that she said. That's where I was going with
that. Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. But again, this is like we said before, it's the integration between what I wanted and what you wanted, just perfectly aligned. And I think that's where business is great, right? Where you have a service that somebody really needs, and then they super value and love the service that you provide.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, I shall see you surely in the very, very near future. But until then, thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with me, and I'll let you go.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Bye.
Bye.
Just a quick reminder before you go, that link is waiting for you in the show notes if you are a health coach who is in business looking to grow or scale. We have options for both, and I am super excited to be working with a few individuals next year who are ready to take their business to the next level. If that sounds like you, chuck down and have a look at the show notes, and you can apply through there, and I will talk to you one-on-one and we can figure out if this is right for you. I cannot wait to chat. I have a tiny favor to ask of you, and that is to just hit that subscribe button if you have not done it yet. If you've made it this far, then I hope that this has been valuable for you and for us to get more incredible guests in front of your earlobes and faces. If you're watching us on YouTube, then please do that now. And if you have any feedback or suggestions for me, or something that was a golden nugget that really stood out to you in this episode, I would absolutely love if you flicked me a message over on Instagram at Xenia Wood Official. Until next episode, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.